he stopped dead in his tracks. His ears perked up, his nose twitched, and his body froze. Out of the sea of strangers, he recognized one scent, one face he hadn't seen in 3 years. And in the next few seconds, something happened that left everyone around in tears. Dogs don't forget the people they love. No matter how much time passes, no matter how far they're separated, that bond never really breaks. But what happens when a retired K9 German Shepherd, thought to be long out of duty, suddenly comes face to face with someone he never expected to see again? Today's story will show you the power of memory, love, and loyalty through the eyes of a dog who never stopped waiting for his human. Before it all fell apart, there was a rhythm to Sergeant Michael Carson's life. Every morning began the same way: the soft jingle of Rex's collar, the quick thump of his paws against the floor, and the quiet, alert stare of a dog already prepared for duty. Rex didn't need alarm clocks. He didn't need orders. He understood Michael better than any human ever could. One glance, one gesture, and Rex moved like a shadow. For Michael, Rex was more than a working partner. He was a protector, a therapist without a license, a guardian spirit with fur. On days when the job chipped away at Michael's faith in humanity, when a domestic call turned violent or a child went missing, Rex was the one who grounded him. He remembered once, during a double homicide scene, Rex refused to leave the side of a grieving mother. She wasn't the suspect or the victim, just collateral damage in someone else's tragedy. As officers shuffled around, bagging evidence and marking bullet holes, Rex laid his head on the woman's lap and didn't move for over an hour. That's when Michael realized Rex wasn't just trained to obey, he was built to understand. And because of that, Michael never felt alone. Their patrol car wasn't just a vehicle, it was a moving sanctuary. Sometimes, between calls, Michael would roll down the windows and talk to Rex as if he were talking to an old friend. And Rex listened, like he always did. Those conversations, the ones about life, pain, and dreams that never quite worked out, felt safe because Rex never judged, never interrupted, never walked away. They shared meals, too, not in some rule-breaking way, but in the quiet moments. A bite of a sandwich here, a shared water bottle on a scorching summer afternoon. Even the silence between them spoke volumes. It wasn't just about being together, it was about trusting each other with your life. But then came the day that shattered that rhythm forever. It started off like any other day. Clear skies, a morning briefing that felt too long. Michael glanced at Rex during the rundown of patrol zones and muttered under his breath, "Same dance, different tune, buddy." Rex, ever so subtly, wagged his tail once. That tiny gesture held a universe of understanding. They were called to assist with a building sweep on the outskirts of town. An old textile factory had triggered alarms multiple times over the last month, and today's call felt more like routine paperwork than a threat. But the moment they stepped through the rusting metal door, something felt off. Michael noticed it first, the silence, a heavy, unnatural stillness that didn't belong in a structure this old. He signaled Rex to stay close and drew his weapon, heart rate climbing just slightly. Not fear, but the familiar edge of anticipation. They moved in deeper. Dust hung in the air like ghost breath. Broken glass crackled beneath their boots. And then, a sudden, sharp flash. An explosion, not massive, but precise, ripped through the floor near the far wall. It was a trap. The force slammed Michael backward. Pain exploded through his ribs and leg. He heard his own scream echoing in the emptiness. His ears rang, his vision blurred, and for a few agonizing seconds, he didn't know if he was alive. But then, there was movement. Rex, loyal, frantic, focused Rex. The dog was trying to drag him out, teeth gently tugging at his uniform, whining lowly, as if pleading, "Get up, please, don't leave me." And somehow, through the haze of pain, Michael managed to reach out and touch Rex's head. That's the last thing he remembered before blacking out. When he woke up, everything was different. The hospital walls were too white, too clean, too quiet. Michael lay there for weeks, barely moving, tubes running from his arm, machines blinking beside him. Every breath felt like fire in his lungs. The shrapnel from the explosion had torn through the muscle in his thigh and fractured 2 ribs. One piece had nearly punctured a lung. The doctors told him he was lucky to be alive. But Michael didn't feel lucky. All he could think about was Rex. Where was he? Was he injured? Did he make it out? No one seemed to have answers. Nurses came and went. The department sent flowers. An officer stopped by once to check in, saying Rex was okay and back at the kennel. But the details were vague, too vague. Michael didn't want comfort. He wanted Rex. The first time he tried to stand, he collapsed to the floor. His body, once conditioned for long chases and physical confrontations, had turned on him. Recovery would be long, the doctor said. Maybe a year, maybe more. And even after all that, he'd never run again. And if he couldn't run, he couldn't serve. And if he couldn't serve, he couldn't be Rex's handler. The realization hit him harder than the explosion ever did. The department had policies. Cold, clean rules that didn't care about bonds or heartbreak. A K-9 officer, once retired due to injury, couldn't keep a working dog. Not unless the dog was retired too. And Rex, young, healthy, in his prime, wasn't going anywhere. He was reassigned within 2 weeks. Michael never got to say goodbye. The pain of that sank in slowly. It wasn't a single moment. It was a series of them. Like when he came home from the hospital to find Rex's leash still hanging by the door. Or when he opened the back seat of his truck out of habit, expecting to see those bright, alert eyes looking up at him. But the seat was empty. So was the house. He didn't talk much after that. Not to friends. Not to family. He went through physical therapy like a machine, pushing harder than the doctors recommended. Not because he thought he'd return to duty, but because he didn't know what else to do. Every part of his routine had once included Rex. His world had been built around a living, breathing soul that now was gone without warning. He even stopped sleeping in his bedroom. Instead, he'd fall asleep on the couch, curled under an old police hoodie, staring at the door, hoping maybe Rex would walk through it. But he never did. Rex, meanwhile, had been reassigned to a younger officer, someone new to the K-9 unit, Officer Tanner. By all accounts, Tanner was a good man, a little stiff, a little unsure, but good. And Rex, he obeyed. He followed commands. He performed with precision, but he wasn't the same. Handlers noticed it. Trainers whispered it. Rex was still a great dog, but something had changed. His energy had dulled. His eyes weren't as sharp. He worked like a machine, not a partner. There were moments, they said, when he would stop in the middle of a patrol and look around, confused, as if searching for something that wasn't there, as if waiting for someone. Sometimes, at night, he would stand by the door of his kennel, staring into the dark, still, silent. Tanner tried. He really did. He brought Rex toys. He played fetch. He offered praise and treats. But nothing worked. Whatever Rex had lost, it wasn't something you could replace. Because it wasn't a toy. It was Michael. And no amount of training or routine could erase 3 years of memories. Back at home, Michael began to unravel. He didn't drink. He wasn't that kind of guy. But he stopped doing the things he used to love. The gym, barbecues with old teammates, Sunday mornings at the shooting range. All gone. He'd sit for hours staring at old photos, some framed, others buried in the camera roll on his phone. Images of Rex as a puppy, half his ears flopping down. Pictures of them during training. One shot where Rex was licking Michael's face during a mock drill, tongue out, tail wagging like crazy. Michael had laughed so hard that day. He hadn't laughed since. The police department reached out a few times, offering counseling, even a desk job. But Michael politely declined. He didn't want a desk. He didn't want a badge without his partner. He wanted his life back. And quietly, he began to search. It wasn't official. There were no records he could legally access. But he began reaching out. Old friends in the department, former handlers, even a dispatcher who owed him a favor. He wasn't looking to interfere. He just wanted to know if Rex was okay, where he was stationed, if he was safe. For months, there was nothing. Then one day, someone slipped him a message. Rex is with Officer Tanner, Patrol Unit 32, District C. That one line changed everything. Michael didn't act on it immediately. He didn't know what he could do, but he began checking police scanner apps late at night. He listened for Unit 32. Whenever he heard chatter involving District C, he turned the volume up, hoping, waiting, and sometimes, he swore he could hear Rex in the background. A bark, a growl, a command being issued. It was like listening through a wall, familiar, but out of reach. Michael thought about driving down there, just to see, just for a moment, but he didn't. Not yet, because deep down, he didn't know what would hurt more, seeing Rex and not being recognized, or not seeing him at all. 3 years, 3 long, quiet years had gone by since Michael had last seen Rex. He'd stopped asking around, stopped digging. What was the point? Rex was probably used to his new handler by now, probably forgot him. Dogs move on, right? That's what everyone said. But no matter how much Michael told himself to let go, something inside him refused. A whisper he couldn't silence. A feeling that Rex hadn't forgotten. That somewhere, deep down, the dog he raised, trained, and loved still remembered. Michael didn't talk about it anymore. Not to friends. Not to his old unit. Not to anyone. Until the letter came. It was just a plain envelope. No return address. No department seal. just a name printed across the front. Michael Carson. Inside was a folded piece of paper, typed short and to the point. Annual K9 unit demonstration, public event, date July 15th. Location, Harrison Field, featuring Officer Tanner and K9 Rex. Michael stared at it. He read the name twice. Rex. His heart skipped a beat. He hadn't heard that name in months. Not out loud, not in print. At first, he thought it was a mistake, some kind of prank. But then it hit him. This was real. A public K9 demonstration event, open to civilians. Anyone could attend, even him. He had the address, the time, the day. It was all there, right in front of him. And for the first time in years, Michael felt something he hadn't felt in forever. Hope. But hope comes with fear. What if Rex didn't remember him? What if the crowd was huge and he never got close? What if Officer Tanner didn't allow it? He battled with the decision for days, pacing the living room, turning the letter over in his hands until the corners wore out. But something inside him, some stubborn part of his heart, refused to back down. On the morning of the event, Michael pulled his old jacket out of the closet, the one Rex used to curl up on during long stakeouts, the one that still, somehow, faintly smelled like his partner. He folded it carefully and tucked it under his arm. Then he got in the truck and drove. Harrison Field was packed, families with kids, vendors, local reporters with cameras, balloons drifting above the crowd. It looked more like a fair than a law enforcement demonstration. Laughter echoed, dogs barked, and officers walked around with K9s by their side, showing the crowd how they trained, sniffed, and tackled on command. Michael stood at the edge of it all, hands in his pockets, heart pounding in his chest. He scanned every corner. Then, in the distance, he saw a familiar shape, large, strong, moving with a quiet confidence. It was Rex, even from across the field. He could tell. That gait, that stance, that coat. His body moved differently than the other dogs. More alert, more focused. Michael had watched that walk 1,000 times. Now he watched it again, but from the shadows. Rex didn't see him. Not yet. Officer Tanner was walking him toward the performance area, where a crowd was gathering to watch a live demo. Obstacle courses, attack simulations, drug detection. Michael moved closer, careful, quiet. His hands trembled. Rex took his place by Tanner's side, sitting obediently, eyes forward. Michael stood still, just a few feet behind the crowd. He didn't say anything, didn't call out, just watched, waiting, wanting. And then, Rex stopped moving, right in the middle of the routine, just as Tanner gave him a command to run the course. Rex froze. His ears twitched, his body stiffened, nose up, eyes scanning. Michael felt his breath catch. And then, Rex turned his head, directly toward the crowd, directly toward him. Michael didn't move, didn't speak, but Rex did. He stared, his head tilted just slightly, eyes locked, and then he stepped forward. Tanner called out, "Affirm Rex heel." But Rex didn't listen. He took another step, and another. Tanner's voice grew louder, sharper. "Rex, return." The crowd started murmuring, but Michael still didn't move. He was afraid, terrified even, because what if he was wrong? What if Rex was just distracted? What if? Then it happened. Rex broke into a sprint, straight through the crowd, straight past the barricades, straight toward one man standing in the back. Michael. The crowd gasped. Officers reached for their radios, but Tanner didn't stop him this time, because something in Rex's body changed. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't disobedience. This was a reunion, 3 years apart, but not a second forgotten. As Rex barreled through the sea of stunned onlookers, it felt like time paused. The laughter faded. The crowd's voices blurred. All that remained was the thundering sound of paws hitting the grass, and a man's heart beating so loudly he could feel it echo in his chest. Michael stood frozen. His mind was racing, confused, afraid, overwhelmed. Was this really happening? Could Rex truly remember him after all this time? Then, like a missile locked on target, Rex reached him, and instead of barking or attacking or acting like a trained officer, he did something that shattered everyone's expectations. He dropped to the ground, right in front of Michael, tail wagging furiously, ears perked, head tilted slightly, just the way he used to do when he wanted attention. Then he whined, a soft, broken sound, almost like he was crying. Michael slowly lowered himself to his knees, and for a moment neither of them moved. Rex leaned in, his massive head rested gently on Michael's leg, eyes shut, tail thumping against the ground like a heartbeat. And Michael, this hardened veteran who had seen the worst of humanity, felt something inside him crumble. His arms wrapped around the dog's neck, and he whispered the name he hadn't spoken in years. Rex. No commands, no whistles, No instructions, just love. And for the first time in what felt like forever, everything was still. At first, people thought it was a mistake. Some thought it was part of the act, but it wasn't. And soon, the silence turned into something else. Murmurs, gasps, even tears. A woman in the front row pulled her phone out and began filming. A child asked, "Is that his dad?" And as the handlers rushed over to get control of the situation, they stopped dead in their tracks when they saw what was really going on. Officer Tanner, Rex's current handler, approached slowly, hands raised as if approaching a sacred moment. He didn't yell. He didn't demand Rex to return. He just stood there because he understood. Something incredible was happening. This wasn't a dog reacting to a scent or chasing a distraction. This was recognition. This was memory. This was love, undeniable, overwhelming, and real. Later that day, after the crowd had dispersed and the official demonstrations were over, Michael sat under a tent behind the event field with Officer Tanner and a few other handlers. Rex sat curled beside him, head resting on Michael's foot like it had never left. Tanner looked at the dog, then at Michael. "I didn't think he'd remember," Tanner admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. "Honestly, I didn't even know you were coming." Michael nodded. "I almost didn't. I've worked with him for 2 years," Tanner said quietly. "He's a great dog, strong, fast, loyal, but he's always been a little distant, never bonded the way others do." He paused. "Now I get why." Michael didn't respond at first. He was still processing, still trying to believe it all. "He never got a goodbye," he finally said. "Neither of us did." Tanner sighed. Then maybe this was meant to happen. What no one saw, what cameras didn't capture, was the silent suffering both Michael and Rex had endured over the years. For Michael, it was the guilt, the feeling that he'd abandoned his best friend. Every time he saw a German shepherd, his heart sank. Every night, he wondered if Rex was okay. Every memory of their service together came with the sting. For Rex, it was confusion. Handlers noticed he had moments of distraction, occasional stares into the distance, sudden changes in behavior around certain smells or voices. No one could explain it, but it made sense now. He hadn't moved on. Neither of them had. Over the next few days, Michael and Officer Tanner stayed in touch. At first, Michael didn't expect anything beyond that one miraculous moment. He was grateful just to have seen Rex again, to have held him, to know that he hadn't been forgotten. But then Tanner surprised him. "We've been talking with the department," he said during a phone call. Michael sat up straighter. "About what?" "About Rex. He's getting older, still capable, but we've been thinking about retirement. It's almost time." Michael's breath caught in his throat. "You mean?" "I mean," Tanner said, "the department's willing to sign him over early, if you're ready to take him." The silence on the line was electric. Michael didn't cry. Not then, but his voice cracked when he said, "I've been ready every single day for the past 3 years." A week later, a department vehicle pulled into Michael's driveway. Rex jumped out before the car even fully stopped. No leash, no hesitation, just pure instinct. He ran up the steps and sat by the front door, waiting, like he already knew this was home. Michael opened the door with a trembling hand, and Rex walked in, calm and confident, tail wagging gently as if to say, "What took you so long?" His old bed was still there. So was the jacket. So was the ball he used to chew, now a little more worn, but still there. That night, they didn't talk. They didn't need to. Michael sat on the floor, back against the couch, as Rex curled beside him, and for the first time in 3 years, they both slept soundly, together. Dogs don't forget the people who love them. They just wait, patiently, quietly, endlessly, until we find our way back. Unknown. 1 week after Rex came home, Michael decided to take him on a quiet walk through the woods behind his house. It was the same path they used to train on years ago, before everything changed, before the injury, before the separation, before the silence. It was fall. Leaves crunched beneath their feet. The breeze carried the kind of chill that hinted winter wasn't far. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that Rex was at his side again. They moved together, without a leash, just like old times, like no time had passed at all. But then something happened that neither of them could have expected. As they neared the old stream at the edge of the property, Michael tripped on a root and fell hard. His side slammed into the dirt. For a brief second, the world spun. He winced. Pain shot through his hip and ribs, places still weak from the old injury. "Ugh, not again," he muttered, trying to sit up. But before he could even gather himself, Rex sprang into action. No bark, no panic, just immediate, calculated movement, like muscle memory. He positioned himself next to Michael's shoulder, steadied his body, then nudged Michael's arm with his head, guiding it onto his back. Michael's eyes widened. This wasn't just a helpful dog. This was training. From years ago, Rex was responding like he used to when Michael was down during drills. He was remembering, and Michael, overwhelmed, hurting, and filled with 100 emotions all at once, placed his weight onto Rex. Slowly, Rex helped him stand, step by step. No commands, no instructions, just instinct, just love, just a bond that had never really broken. When they finally made it back to the porch, Michael sat down on the top step, breathing heavily. Rex sat beside him, panting softly, head nudging Michael's hand. "You still got it," Michael whispered. Rex licked his fingers, and then, without warning, Michael broke down. Not from the fall, not from the pain, but because in that moment, he realized something that shattered him in the best way possible. Rex hadn't just remembered who he was. He had remembered everything, every lesson, every signal, every unspoken connection they'd built over years of working side by side. Even after being apart for over 1,000 days, Rex still knew how to protect him, still chose him, still loved him, and Michael couldn't hold it in anymore. He buried his face into Rex's fur, sobbing quietly into the thick coat of the one being who had never, ever let him down. That night, without telling anyone, Michael posted a short video to his barely used social media account. It was a simple clip, just him and Rex, sitting on the porch. No fancy editing, no dramatic music, just a man and his dog, side by side, as the sun set behind them. The caption, 3 years apart, 1 second to remember. Within 48 hours, the video exploded, hundreds of thousands of views, then millions. People from all over the world shared their own stories of pets reuniting with loved ones. Veterans commented about their canine partners. Officers left messages of support and tears. Someone wrote, "This isn't just a reunion, it's a reminder. Dogs never forget love, ever." Reporters called. Animal rescue pages reposted it. Even local news stations picked it up, airing it with the headline, "A Bond Beyond Service. Retired K9 and Handler Reunite After 3 years Apart." But to Michael and Rex, none of that mattered. What mattered was what happened next. Michael received a call from a local therapy organization after the video went viral. They had a simple question: would you and Rex be willing to visit hospitals? At first, he hesitated, but Rex, always tuned into his emotions, wagged his tail at the sound of the word visit, and that was all the answer he needed. They began making rounds at local children's hospitals, rehabilitation centers, even senior homes. Rex didn't need to perform tricks. He didn't need to do anything. His presence alone was enough. The kids adored him. Nurses called him a miracle on 4 legs. And for Michael, each visit felt like he was giving back, not just to the community, but to the dog who never gave up on him. One day, at a special ceremony held by the department, Michael was invited on stage to speak. He looked out at the crowd of officers, families, and local citizens. Rex stood proudly at his side, wearing his old service vest, retired, but still shining with dignity. Michael stepped up to the mic. He cleared his throat and said something simple. "I lost a part of myself when I lost Rex, but I never lost his love, because he never stopped waiting. And when he found me again, he healed something no doctor ever could." The crowd stood. Some clapped, some cried, but no one left untouched. Rex turned to Michael, wagged his tail, and let out a soft, happy bark. As the years went on, Michael and Rex continued their incredible journey together. They didn't need the spotlight. They didn't need the recognition. All they needed was each other. The bond they shared was one that didn't need explaining, because it was a story written in the moments between them. The quiet gestures, the unspoken understanding, and the loyalty that time couldn't erase. Every day, Michael would watch Rex's eyes gleam with affection, his tail wagging just a little faster each time Michael came home. And every day, Michael would remember the true meaning of what it meant to be loved unconditionally, because it wasn't just Rex who had healed. Michael had too. The world may have called their reunion a miracle, but for Michael and Rex, it was simply destiny, a bond that could never be broken, no matter how many days, months, or years passed. Together, they continued to visit hospitals, schools, and veteran groups. They shared their story with anyone who needed a reminder that true loyalty, love, and friendship can't be measured in time. It's in the moments when you least expect it, the moment you realize that even after all the pain, the distance, and the waiting, the love you share will always bring you home. But perhaps, the most touching moment of all came one quiet evening as Michael and Rex lay in the living room, with nothing but the soft hum of the house surrounding them. Michael looked down at Rex, who had his head resting on Michael's lap, eyes half closed in contentment. And for that one perfect moment, it wasn't about being a former officer or a retired K9. It wasn't about all the people who had watched their story unfold. It was just about two souls, one human, one dog, who had fought, cried, and loved together. And now, in this final chapter, they could rest easy, because they had each other, and they always would. If you believe in the power of loyalty and the unbreakable bond between a dog and their human, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to see more incredible stories like this one. We'll see you in the next video.